Warframe. One of, if not the best free-to-play games on the market, but also one of the hardest games to wrap your head around. With such a steep learning curve, a lot of new players simply give up on the game before they ever get to see what it's truly about. And while there is a wealth of knowledge out there already for beginners, a lot of it is outdated or delivered by veterans that have long since forgotten what it's like to come to Warframe as a brand new player. I've spent the last month playing almost nothing but Warframe, racking up over 80 hours of playtime, and let me be clear, 80 hours is almost nothing in this community. I've definitely still got a ton of stuff to learn, but coming from a background of playing thousands of hours of looter and action RPG style games such as Destiny, Diablo, Monster Hunter, Path of Exile and The Division, I'm pretty comfortable getting into these games. When I get into this style of game, I have a tendency to get a bit obsessed. I've combed dozens of hours of video, read hundreds of wiki pages, forum posts and Reddit threads, and combined all of this information and applied it to my own game with great success. And today, I'm here to spread that knowledge and hopefully bring a fresh perspective to the community when it comes to getting started with Warframe. The overarching topic I want to cover today is what you should focus on when first starting out in Warframe, which in turn will make you a better and more satisfied player. There are many things that are introduced to you as you progress through the main storyline with little or no explanation given. There's also a few things in Warframe that contrast quite a bit with how you traditionally would play a looter style game, so we'll touch on that too. And with that, let's begin. Movement in Warframe should be the absolute first thing you get comfortable with. I'm not going to cover all the movement options in this video, as there's actually a pretty good tutorial on it in-game. You can access this tutorial and a bunch of other ones from the codex in your ship. The reason I started with movement is because it's absolutely integral with how Warframe is supposed to be played. You don't want to be that guy in the group lagging behind, missing out on all that juicy affinity, and making your teammates wait on you. Moving quickly through levels is one of the best feelings in this game and a huge reason why it's so satisfying to play. This comes back to what I mentioned before about a contrasting playstyle with other looters. When I first started playing Warframe, I searched every room and every map and every mission, broke every container and killed every enemy. I wanted that sweet loot. But in almost all cases you do not want to do this. Your focus should be zipping through the map and completing the objectives as fast as possible. There are certain circumstances that will change this, however. For example, if you're farming for a specific rare resource like those damned neurodes, but 90% of the time you'll want to ignore almost everything and just get to the end as fast as possible. This is probably one of the biggest changes in mindset I had when getting into this game. Warframe has a ridiculously in-depth crafting system, and you can get into crafting from the moment you unlock the Foundry, which is done during the first main story mission. Here, you can craft new weapons, warframes, sentinels, and all sorts of other goodies, something I completely skipped over for far too long when I first jumped into the game. I hadn't found any blueprints, so how could I make anything? This is where the market comes in. And don't worry, while some things are locked behind the premium currency Platinum, you can buy almost everything on the market using credits, the in-game currency you'll be earning from almost all activities. As soon as you can, take a look at the market and find some new weapons to buy or craft. Those basic weapons you had to choose between at the very start of the game can all be purchased outright for credits, straight from the market, along with their direct upgrade non-MK1 variants. You should be constantly crafting and looking for new gear to make. Why? Because you want to increase your mastery rank. In a nutshell, your mastery rank is your overall progress in the game. Leveling up anything will go towards incrementing your mastery rank, or MR. Once you max out a piece of equipment at rank 30, you'll no longer get anything towards your MR when earning affinity on that piece of gear. That's why you always want to have new gear to swap to and level up in order to bump up that MR. A higher mastery rank gives you access to better gear, better base mod capacity, more daily syndicate standing, and a bunch more stuff. For example, at mastery rank 2, you'll be able to buy the blueprint for the Boltor rifle, a powerful rifle that will really help you on planets like Mars that are dense in Grineer. Almost every beginner's guide will suggest getting this weapon, and this one's no different. There's a really good video by MCGamerCZ, which I'll link to in the description, which details some good weapons to pick up at each mastery rank. I'd also suggest doing some research of your own on some weapons you might like to play with at higher levels, as some weapons have several layers of crafting involved. For example, the Legion is a really good polearm that can be crafted from the torpedo, but to get the torpedo you need the kunai and bow. You want to max out each of these weapons before progressing to the next step to save yourself having to craft them again for mastery rank. One thing to note is that you have a limited number of slots for weapons and frames. It's a good idea to sell weapons that you've maxed out and don't want to use anymore. Be wary of weapons you may need to use in blueprints later down the line though. You can also leave crafted weapons sitting in the foundry until you're ready to use them to save slots. You can increase your slot capacity by purchasing slots for a really small amount of platinum at the market, which I'd highly suggest doing at least with that starter platinum. I'd also suggest reading up on how affinity and mastery rank work on the wiki, which I'll link to in the description. Modding is another extremely in-depth and fairly complex system in Warframe. Modding your frames and weapons really is the crucial step in making you more powerful and able to take on higher level content, so it is really important to get your head around early on. You'll get mods simply by playing the game, as drops from enemies and from mission rewards. A lot of rare mods are locked behind special alert and nightmare missions, or are hidden in secret treasure rooms in the void, but let's stick to the basics in this video. All mods have a certain polarity, and matching a mod's polarity to a slot on your frame or weapon with the same polarity will halve the cost of that mod. For example, let's look at the Frost frame. It has two polarities out of the box, a Vazarin and a Naramin, or a D and dash for short. If I take this Vitality mod, which at rank 6 costs 8 capacity, and put it on the frame, it will take 8 capacity. But if I put it in the D slot, it'll take 4, halving its cost. Polarities can be added to more slots on your gear by crafting a rare component called Former. These can be applied to a max rank item to add a polarity to it. It will also reset the rank of the item back to 0 and you won't get any more mastery rank from that item. Mods can be ranked up through fusion at the mod segment on your ship. Each time you rank up a mod, it will obviously become more powerful, but it will also take up more capacity on your gear, so be careful not to overrank a mod. Fusion takes Endo and credits. You'll get Endo as drops from enemies, mission rewards, breaking down mods, and many other ways. Mods can be broken down into credits or Endo. I'd suggest always going for Endo, as credits become very easy to get as you progress through the game. Your bottleneck will almost always be Endo when ranking up mods, especially at the higher levels when a single rank can cost thousands of Endo. Ranking up mods and equipping the right mods on your gear is essential in becoming more proficient at Warframe. There's an auto mod option, but I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you're very fresh with the game. For frames, you'll want to focus on survivability, like extra health, shields, and armor first, then buffing their abilities. It will depend on the frame on which mod you choose. For example, Rhino is a tanky support character with a lot of health and armor, so you want to mod him for health, armor, ability strength, etc. For weapons, you should focus on raw damage increases, then elemental damage, then quality of life things like attack speed and reach. You'll mostly want to ignore the slash, puncture, and impact increase mods, unless the majority of your weapon's damage come from that source, like 90% or more. This is because the increases from raw and elemental damage mods apply across all three of those damage sources, so you're getting a much more bang for your buck. I would highly suggest getting familiar with the damage page on the wiki, which I've linked to below, and learning some of the values from the overview table. Choosing the right weapon and element for a mission can drastically change how fast you clear it. For example, in early missions against Grineer, you want to focus on puncture and heat or toxin. For example, equipping a Boltor with Serration and Infected Clip, since you won't have the mod to increase your heat damage yet. Or if you have the capacity to it, chuck on Infected Clip and Stormbringer to make corrosive damage. We chose these elements and damage types due to most of the enemies in early game Grineer missions having Ferrite armor, which takes 50% extra damage from puncture and 75 extra damage from corrosive. Combining these makes for a very potent weapon. In really early parts of the game, this stuff won't matter too much, but in later levels, you'll really want to pay attention to what you're taking into each mission and ensure that you're equipped accordingly. Syndicates are unlocked once you hit Mastery Rank 3 and can very easily go unnoticed as the game seemingly doesn't even acknowledge them. When unlocked, you can pledge your allegiance to any of the 6 syndicates from your ship. Think of syndicates like factions. You earn standing, sort of like reputation, for doing missions with a syndicate's sigil equipped. You'll have a daily limit on how much standing can be acquired through this method, but there are also syndicate missions which give you a specific chunk of standing that is not affected by the daily limit. Scattered throughout these special missions, you'll find insignias which, when handed in, also grant standing that is again not affected by daily limits. The game does not explain this in the slightest, and for a long time I ignored their missions entirely, not realizing they didn't count towards the daily limit. Running the missions and scouring the map for the insignias can be a very lucrative way to get standing. The Thief's Wit mod can really help out here. The importance of the syndicates comes clear at later ranks. When earning syndicate standing, you'll hit a point where you have to spend some resources to rank up in the syndicate. You can also use the standing to buy offerings from the syndicate. At rank 4 you'll get access to some very powerful weapon augment mods, and rank 5, Warframe augment mods. Each syndicate offers mods for different weapons and frames, so do some research and figure out which syndicate offers the mods for the gear you like. For example, I'm with the Steel Meridian due to the fact that they offer the Scattered Justice mod for the Hex shotgun. This mod boosts the power of the weapon by a ridiculous amount, so it was a no-brainer. They also offer mods for Rhino and Nova, both of which are frames that I really enjoy playing. Syndicates also have allies and enemies, meaning you'll earn or lose standing with other syndicates just by earning standing for your main syndicate. Because of this, you can only have rank 5 in a syndicate with a maximum of 4 syndicates. For example, you can gain standing with the Steel Meridian until it and its allies Red Veil are rank 5, then switch to Cephalon Suda and rank up that and the Arbiters of Hexus to rank 5. I'd suggest looking through each of the syndicate's offerings and decide for yourself which is best for you, but the Steel Meridian is a good default as the Heck is an unbelievably good weapon when modded correctly, and Scattered Justice is one of the best mods for it. Clans are another really important part of the Warframe experience. Synonymous with guilds, clans are groups of players united under a single banner. You can create your own clan or get invited to an existing one. I chose to join an existing clan due to the sheer number of resources required to invest into them. You may choose to start your own clan with a group of friends though, it's totally up to you. Clans provide access to a dojo, a sort of personalised base for your clan. Here you can build different rooms and tiles to create your very own home base. Labs are special rooms that offer research into a vast array of unique gear such as weapons, warframes, archwings and much more that can only be acquired through this method. Some of the most powerful gear comes from the dojo, which is why it's important to get into a clan and get researching early on. I've mentioned a few times throughout this video already that you should do your own research, and you really should. There is a wealth of knowledge out there about every single aspect of this game, and while figuring it out yourself could be fun, you'll be wasting a hell of a lot of time. The wiki is the first place I go when I want to find something out, especially when you're looking for a specific item. This will be your go-to research center when you're trying to figure out how to find items you need for crafting or mods you need to make your weapons and frames stronger. One of the first times I used the wiki was when I was looking for the Serration mod. This boosts your raw damage on rifles and is actually surprisingly rare considering the same mod for melee weapons drops so goddamn often. Anyway, let's see how to use the wiki to figure out where to find that mod. Using the search, we can find the page for that specific mod. Scrolling down, on the right we can see a list of sources for the mod both from missions and enemies. You can even see the specific drop rates straight from here. For the mission sources, you'll see which tiers they drop from. And when hovering over the tier, you'll see the rotation and drop chance specifically for that tier of mission type. Let's take the interception mission type for this mod as an example. Hovering over, we can see tier 1 has a 5.26% chance to drop from rotation B, and tier 2 has a 7.14% chance to drop from rotation B as well. What the hell are tiers and rotations? Tiers are simply groups of missions for a specific mission type that share the same rewards. For example, Callisto on Jupiter and Oaths on Europa are both tier 2 excavation missions. Rotations refer to the reward rotations for the mission depending on the objective of the mission. For example, endless missions follow the AABC rotation, meaning the first mission reward will be from rotation A, the second A, the third B, and the fourth C, then repeating. So for our Serration mod on the interception mission, we'd want to go for tier 2 missions if we can, and stay for rotation B rewards, meaning the third round of interception. Or we could farm tier 1 survival missions for rotation B rewards, which is the 15-minute mark. It's totally up to you. That is just one way to use the wiki to your advantage, but it doesn't stop there. The official forums have a players helping players section where you'll find many threads for all sorts of things to help you out. There's the Warframe subreddit too, and obviously as you already know, YouTube is a massive resource when it comes to all sorts of guides and information, so just keep doing what you're doing. I could go on for a long time about all sorts of other stuff, but I think we've covered some really important concepts to get your head around that the game doesn't do very well at explaining to you. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. This is my very first Warframe video, and I'd love to do more, so let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. Feel free to drop any questions or corrections, or maybe let me know if I've missed anything in particular in the comments too. I'll be replying to anyone and everyone, so let's talk. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.